2012 is the year of the bracelet at Red Panda Beads. Each month I am designing a new bracelet based on that month's birthstone. The birthstone for April is diamonds. I used Swarovski diagonal cubes to simulate diamonds in this bracelet. And instead of using a regular clasp, I created a toggle clasp with the beads for more uniformity in the bracelet. The materials for the April design are 4mm Swarovski diagonal cubes, size 11/0 Miyuki rocales, 2.8mm Miyuki drop beads, and beading needles and thread. For the diagonal cubes I chose the crystal AB because they appear the most like diamonds. For the size 11 rocales I did two versions of the bracelet, one in the silver Duracoat and one in the gold Duracoat. The Duracoat finish by Miyuki was designed especially to resist fade and wear or tarnish, so I chose those two bright colors to complement the crystals. And the Miyuki drop beads, I used two on each end, one on each end of the toggle for the clasp, just as embellishment. And for the beading needles, I used the Big Eye beading needles, and for the thread, I used the spider wire that's designed especially to work with sharp crystals and to be as thin as or as invisible as possible. I'm going to start out by attaching each end of the spider wire to one of these needles. I like to use the Big Eye needles. They open real easy. And normally I would use just a yard of the spider wire for a bracelet like this, but since I'm doing my own clasp, the toggle clasp, and the open end of the clasp is going to be assembled using this stretch of line here, beading thread, I am going to use about a yard and another 20 inches in length, so it's quite a bit longer than what I'm used to using. There. Okay, now I'm all ready to start assembling the bracelet. This design is a 2-needle right angle weave design. This design is a 2-needle right angle weave design. I think that takes or gives the best exposure of the crystals in all their facets. I like to use the Big Eye needles. They're so easy to open, and they work really well over and over again. Okay, so first you take a yard of the spider wire and then you attach it each end to your needles, and then you pick up one of the rocales, one of the crystals, and one of the rocales. It doesn't matter which needle you use since this is starting out the project. And so you bring it down and you can see that there's one crystal with a rocale on either end. So next you're going to pick up one crystal and one rocale on each needle, one crystal, one rocale. Normally when I'm working with an AB finish crystal, if it's just an AB finish on one side of the crystal, I typically want to have all of the crystals facing in the same direction, but because I want it to really sparkle and shine and to just to glitter like crazy, I am not going to really pay any attention to the orientation of the crystals with the AB finish. I'm just going to put them on there so that however way my wrist turns in the light, it'll catch and flash and really, really sparkle. Okay, so this is the base of the right angle weave. Next we're going to put a crystal on one needle and then a crystal on the next needle. or actually run the second needle through the crystal, and then bring it down to where that fourth crystal actually rests on top of the other 3 crystals. And then just continue building this bracelet just like this, using 2 crystals with the rocal on either side, and then the right angle weave crystal where the threads cross each other, and use 58 of the crystals to build the length of the bracelet. Okay, so you pick up one of the rocals on each needle, then one of the crystals on each needle, and then one more rocal on each needle, and bring them down, and they rest on top of that first segment. And then the right angle weave crystal, you put it on one needle and then put the other needle through it so that it is locked on both threads, and then bring it down to rest on top of the remaining crystals. So that is the process. Just keep doing it until you've used all but 2 of the crystals. That's 58. There are 60 crystals in each kit, and the finished bracelet is 7.5 inches long. I have finished working up the crystals. It works very quickly. The most time-consuming part of this bracelet is actually making the clasp. And here's my 2 crystals left over that I'm going to use on my toggle. So now I want to begin by finishing up this end of the bracelet. So let me zoom in some. Alright, now to finish off this end, I am going to string 4 of the rocals on each needle, and these are going to rest on either side of this top crystal, not touching it, but allowing me to begin making the clasp. Alright, now I am going to take the thread off of both needles, and I am going to take both threads and put them on one needle. So basically I'll be working with 2 threads now, but only 1 needle, so it's not the right angle weave stitch anymore. So let me pull it up tight, and then put both threads in the 1 needle and pull it down. So now I have the 4 beads on either side of the crystal, and I'm going to string 1 bead through the top and bring it down to rest on top of the other ones, and you can see where it forms a V, and it is out away from the crystal, but it will allow me to attach the rest of the clasp here. Alright, now I'm ready to begin the open end of the toggle clasp, and that starts out with 31 rocals strung on the needle with the 2 threads attached. Alright, I've got 31, and I'm just going to pull them down. There, let's move these out of the way. And there. So technically there's 32 if you count the first one here that is nestled against the 2 4 on each thread, but there's the 31. Now I'm going to run the needle back through to begin to create the loop. Sometimes it works best if you go through most of them and then the last few separately instead of trying to cram them all on one needle. So there, now pull it tight. And you can see the one that's going to be nestled on top of the two strands there, and then the rest of the 31 here. Alright, next I'm going to seal the loop, or finish the loop, by going through that top bead, or the first bead, to complete the circle. I'm going to slide it down so that it's resting on top of the other beads. And there is the beginning of my loop. Now I am going to embellish the circle doing a circular flat peyote stitch just one time around, and that will finish this end of the clasp. Alright, I'm beginning the circular flat peyote stitch. You can see where I came out of the first one here. I'm skipping that bead and I'm going in the next one. I've got a bead on my needle and just pull it tight. Everything about bead stitching is about the tension, so you want to make sure that you've got the tension set. So I'm going to pick up another bead, I'm going to skip another bead, and then go in that one right there. Okay, I'm just about done embellishing with the stitch here. I've got the last one to do, and you can make your loop larger by adding more beads or smaller by using less beads. 31 is what I used, and you have to use an odd amount, that way it finishes up symmetrical and it's even on both sides as far as the placement of the extra beads. Now it also helps to push the beads with your fingernails so that you can avoid nicking the thread that's in that bead where you strung it around 2 times. So there, pull it tight. Alright, there's my finished loop, and you can see how symmetric it is with the placement of the extra beads. Now I'm going to take the needle with both threads on it and go through that top bead, the one that is actually shared by both of the strands coming up around that last crystal. So now I'm going to take the threads off the needle, and I'm going to go back to a 2-needle stitch, and I am going to come back down through the piece. I'm going to bring this side down through here, I'm going to bring this side down through here, and I'm going to reverse the right angle weave that I did and then tie off an inch, maybe 2 inches down the bracelet to secure it, and then this end of the bracelet will be complete and I can begin the toggle end. I've worked my threads down through the bracelet, and both of them I've wrapped one around so that they both meet here. I'm going to tie them off using a surgeon's knot, and then I'll touch it up with a dab of GS Hypo Cement just to make the knot a little more secure, and then on to making the toggle. This ends part 1 of the video for April. Part 2, I am going to show you how to make the toggle that completes the clasp and the bracelet.